The Shape of Water. It's fairly common knowledge at this point that writer-director Guillermo Del Toro is a monster movie fanatic. So it shouldn't surprise anyone that the genesis of his movie The Shape of Water was a childhood viewing of The Creature from the Black Lagoon decades ago. As he was watching, then 6-year-old Del Toro found the iconic image of the creature carrying away the woman to be beautiful, not horrific. And he actually rooted for the creature and woman to end up together. Spoilers for a 64-year-old movie, they don't. And as he told the crowd when he introduced The Shape of Water at its world premiere in Telluride back in September.
And what I said yesterday, and it's true, is it took me 40-something years and 25 years as a filmmaker to correct that cinematic mistake.
The mistake is corrected in The Shape of Water via a lonely mute woman named Eliza, played by Sally Hawkins. In 1962 Baltimore, at the height of the Cold War, Eliza works as a cleaning lady at a secretive government research lab, where one day, a no-nonsense government employee named Strickland, played by Michael Shannon, arrives with a mysterious humanoid amphibian that he captured in the Amazon. Another reference to the creature from the Black Lagoon, which also lived in the Amazon. Given her knack for nonverbal communication, Eliza is able to build a connection with the fishman, referred to as the asset by the scientists who hope to study it. Once Eliza realizes they intend to kill the asset, she enlists the help of her down-on-his-luck, closeted neighbor Giles, played by Richard Jenkins, to help her save him. I think the most important thing to know about The Shape of Water is that it is a full-blown fairy tale, and all that implies. It opens with narration and a visual prologue of sorts.
If I told you about her, the princess without voice, what would I say?
And from there, it's a fairly traditionally told, traditionally structured story. Basically, if you're at all familiar with the typical beats of a screenplay, The Shape of Water has a crystal clear inciting incident, crystal clear act breaks, a crystal clear midpoint climax, and, if we're being honest, some second act sag, etc. Mind you, there's nothing inherently wrong with this, and in fact, when you're telling a relatively bizarre story, a relationship between a woman and a fishman that is unambiguously consummated, it's a good idea to ground it with relatively traditional storytelling. And yet, I admit I still had trouble buying into the love story portion. Not that an interspecies romance is ever an easy sell, but particularly when it develops this quickly. This isn't a movie about how a woman could possibly fall in love with a fishman. It's a movie about a woman who does fall in love with a fishman. Now what? It sort of speeds past the falling in love part as a bit of a given. For this reason, the fact that I had some trouble buying into the falling in love part is less of an issue than you might think. It's just one plot point and not the whole point. Eliza's plea to Giles to get him to help her rescue the asset is a fantastic scene, my favorite in the movie, because regardless of whether the romance is believable, her empathy sure as hell is. Hawkins is incredible in this scene in particular, but she's great in the whole movie, as is most of the cast. Every performer brings a nice specificity to their character, which saves some of them from teetering into caricature. Michael Shannon in particular walks that line like a goddamn champ. He's Malkovichian with his careful, deliberate movements, but somehow always seems on the brink of exploding.
Listen, Phil.
Sit down! And special mention for Michael Stahlberg, who reminded me this year that he brings unexpected vulnerability and tenderness to every role, even a Russian spy in a Cold War movie. And even if I didn't love the screenplay, to go along with the great performances, there's gorgeous cinematography, gorgeous music from Oscar frontrunner and past winner Alexander Desplat, gorgeous costumes and production design. But the two kind of go hand in hand because both are infused with a deliberate color scheme and with a touch of intentional artificiality. Everything in this world looks just a little fake, for lack of a better word, which both underscores the fairy tale aspect and, I think, is reminiscent of old Hollywood film sets. Eliza and Giles both live above a movie theater, and they're both obsessed with Golden Age Hollywood stars.
I'm gonna be synchronizing our watches just like they do in the movies.
From Fred Astaire to The Creature from the Black Lagoon, old Hollywood is woven into this movie's DNA. Which brings me back to Del Toro's original inspiration for telling this story, to correct a cinematic mistake of sorts. The movie was born in the spirit of revisionism, not just of the creature story, but also, as it turns out, of our value system from that time. Strickland represents everything that was supposed to be idyllic about 1962. Suburbia, consumerism, a traditional family dynamic, deference to superiors, and American exceptionalism, with casual undercurrents of white/male superiority. And yet, despite doing all the right things of the time, he's still a miserable son of a bitch. The movie portrays the things that we once all strived for to be unfulfilling. Contrast this with The Outcasts, the non-traditional family of the mute spinster and the lonely old closet case. They live in an urban environment instead of a suburb, and they're noticeably more integrated into their community. The local theater owner is their landlord, they frequent a local diner, Eliza takes the bus, etc. There are opposing forces at play here: community versus isolationism, preservation versus destruction, and most importantly, empathy versus fear, as those are so often the two possible responses to encountering otherness. And this movie proudly celebrates otherness. Guillermo Del Toro clearly has a very special ability to respond to otherness with empathy, particularly if he can find overwhelming beauty, his words, in this image. The Shape of Water is a delightful trip inside Del Toro's exceptional imagination, and in some ways you begin to come around to how Del Toro sees things. You may instinctively ask yourself how anyone could possibly ever fall in love with the Fishman, which is fair, but it's clear Del Toro sees love everywhere, even in really unexpected places. After all, love, like water, has no shape, but can cut through everything and take the shape of anything you need. Now I get it.